Hello and welcome to the Writecome.com podcast, where we help you to make money from your words. Each episode will be sharing tips, tricks, and strategies you can use to make more money from your writing, publishing, and marketing to your fans and audience. Let's get started with your host, Barry J. McDonald.
Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very welcome to this podcast episode from Writecome.com. And today's podcast episode is entitled Resolution or Reinvention. Now, I want to give full credit to this thought today to the great Randy Gage. It was something he had brought up on a video on his YouTube channel recently, and it did kind of make me kind of rethink or just maybe expand my head with a new idea, because it was something I never really thought of before. So, as Randy says, we normally would head into the new year trying to make some resolutions. So we're trying to, lose weight, or we're trying to change our health, or maybe our finances or whatever. But we're kind of looking to do maybe these kind of small tweaks, maybe things that we've wanted to do for the longest time. And this is going to be the year when we're going to make those small tweaks. But as Randy says, rather than, making small tweaks, what about reinventing yourself? Now, this podcast today will probably make more sense if you've listened to yesterday's one. It is going to kind of springboard off some of the thoughts and ideas in yesterday's podcast episode, in that a lot of us, unfortunately, kind of label ourselves, or we take on roles, and it's the same role we will play from the cradle to the grave. As I said yesterday, we'll have some people who will, label themselves with a particular type of job. It's the job that they had maybe from when they were 15 until retirement age, and then when they retire from that job or lose the job, then unfortunately their health goes, because that role or that label hasn't been taken off them. But as Randy said, at the moment he is going through a reinvention, and a lot of his friends are slagging him and laughing at him, saying that he is going through another midlife crisis. Now, Randy has said that at the moment he's probably gone through about at least 3 or 4 midlife crises at present. But for a lot of us, that that thought or that term midlife crisis does kind of have some kind of negative kind of thoughts and kind of ideas with it, in that when we think of somebody who is having a midlife crisis, it's probably that they have gone to some plastic surgery and they've got their face all tightened up, or they have all the fat sucked out of them, or maybe they've been bald yesterday and suddenly they appear today and they've got a full head of hair, or maybe they have ditched their partner or their life partner or wife or husband, whatever, and suddenly they are going around town with a better looking model, or maybe they have ditched their normal car, their family car, and all of a sudden they're driving around in some kind of sports car or some kind of roofless car. And that, for a lot of people, is what a midlife crisis is. Sometimes, a lot of us, it can be a little bit embarrassing, maybe if you know the person, but it's kind of one of those moments where people are kind of, pointing their finger and sneering and saying, oh, look at him, who does he think he is, driving around in his sports car now, or look at him, he's ditched his wife, or all that. So there's a lot of kind of negativity and a lot of lack thinking in a midlife crisis. But when you do look at a midlife crisis, for a lot of things it is a lot of exterior things, in that as I said, it's suddenly going from being bald to having a full head of hair. It's going from having maybe a face that maybe is just sagging and falling around your knees, to suddenly you're looking like Cher tomorrow. Or it could be maybe just kind of getting rid of your partner, whatever, and getting another life partner. But when you do look at those things are exterior things. The person themselves probably hasn't changed at all. It's like almost going outside and getting your house and then painting it bright pink, and you're kind of showing off to the world, I'm making a big change in my life, look at my house, it's bright pink. But on the inside, your house is probably still the same. It still has all the furniture, it still is everything the exact same way it is. And for a lot of those people having those midlife crises, inside in their head, their thoughts, whatever, it's still the exact same as it was before. They probably think the same thoughts about themselves. If there's lack thoughts there, they're still there. If they have thoughts maybe on money or love or whatever, they have all that inside. They've never actually gone inside and actually worked or had a kind of a reinvention on the inside. And that was something that Randy had brought up, in that instead of us heading into 2021 with some kind of long list of resolutions, how about this year being the year when you are going to take on a new role, maybe cut off those parts of yourself that you're not happy with. So again, it could be your health, it could be money or something like that, or maybe it's that kind of lack part of yourself, maybe that lack of confidence in yourself, where where you don't feel confident in yourself to maybe do a podcast, or maybe you don't feel confident in yourself to be a writer or whatever, but just maybe cutting away those lack parts of yourself, or just kind of focusing on them, and putting a lot of effort into making changes in those areas, so that you do come out of 2020 with those areas kind of straightened up, or maybe the negative part of it is suddenly turned into positive. You're going to work on those parts, you're going to reinvent those parts. So I want you to think about your life at the moment. As I said, it does kind of springboard off yesterday's podcast episode, in that we do take on roles. Whatever your role is right now, is that a role that you would like to carry on for the rest of your life? When you do look at it, maybe that we have only kind of one chance at this, this great thing called life. It's never really been written down anywhere that whatever you start doing is the thing you should end the finishing line at. At any time you could drop what you're doing right now, or you could take on new roles. You could suddenly become a writer. You could suddenly become a podcaster. You could suddenly become somebody who is a coach to somebody else. You could have a YouTube channel. You could have videos. You could have all those different things. You could be taking on those roles. There's nobody that is stopping you from doing that. Unfortunately, a lot of us think that there is. That society, is kind of going to look at us like that, that bald-headed man driving around in a sports car with his new blonde. A lot of us feel under pressure that we need to, not to stick our heads above the parapet, not to stand out, not to make any changes, because we are going to be seen as the odd one. For a lot of us too, when you do think about the roles we do have, you may think, well, I'm not like that. I am the writer, I am this or that, but you will find that we do take all roles. I'm sure as we've gone back, we've just passed through Christmas time here, probably a lot of you have probably gone to, well, those of us who could have gone back to family because of COVID and everything. I'm sure if you have gone back to any family gatherings, you will find that you will go back into the role that you've always had in your family, or you will find maybe that your family will kind of, box you into whatever role you had when you were growing up. So maybe you were the one that was the crazy one that was always doing the crazy things. You were doing Amway one week, maybe you were trying this business out or that business out, or maybe you've always been seen as the dopey one in the family, or maybe the clever one, or you've always been the wealthy one, or you've always been the poor one. But we all have these kind of roles that we play in our families, not just in life. And I'm sure when you do go back, it's crazy when you do, maybe if you do kind of stand back and look at how your family is actually treating you at those parties and get-togethers. Do they see you still as the same person? As I said, you may have had that role back in your teens or your 20s or whatever. Maybe you're in your 40s, your 50s, or your 60s, but your family are still seeing you in that role. You're always the crazy one. You're always the one that is all trying out all these different things. You're always failing. You're going from one business endeavor to the other, and you've never ever made it, and your family sees you as that way. And that is a role that we have in families. And again, as I said, your neighbors, your friends, and all those people have you boxed into some particular role. And when you start kind of pushing yourself out of that role and taking on new things, you will be seen as a little bit weird. You will be seen as the one, she's in her 50s now, look at her now, she suddenly thinks she's going to be a writer, or she suddenly thinks that she is going to have a YouTube channel, or she's going to be a podcaster. But your friends are going to look at you in a new way because you're going to do all those different things. So if you are looking to do some reinvention, if you're looking to go further than the resolutions that other people are doing, people are going to look at you in a weird way. They are going to try and force you back into that little box that they feel comfortable with you having, because by forcing you into a box, it makes them feel better about themselves. For example, if you today became someone who had a YouTube channel that had 6 or 7 million people watching you every day, to your friends, you are still that person they grew up with, you're still that person they went to school with. But look at you now, you have 7 million subscribers that are listening into your episodes on YouTube. And it does kind of make them kind of look at themselves in a way, what are they doing with their lives? Why haven't they done what you have done? And because of that, then you will find that if you do take on a big role like that, or if you do try to make big changes, they will probably sneer behind your back. Now, sometimes they may do it purposely, in that they are trying to drag you back into the pot. It's almost like those crabs, who are boiling in that pot of water. If you do try and make a getaway for it, you will find one of them will try to grab onto your leg and try to pull you back in with comments like, should you really be doing that? Oh, I seen your video the other day, it was so embarrassing. Now, you're not embarrassed, talking about that story about your family, and how do your family feel about all those things? And while that person might seem that they are looking out for your best interest, it is that they are grabbing onto your leg and they are trying to pull you back into that pot, or trying to pull you into that box that they have always known you for. So I want you to give some thought today. If you are trying to do something in 2020, maybe the resolutions aren't big enough. Maybe you need to do a total reinvention. Now, as I said, I'm not saying you should need to dye your hair pink or get that sports car or suddenly just wake up this morning and push your husband or your partner out of bed and just say, well, good luck to you, I am off on a new life. Well, maybe that is something maybe you need to do, or maybe it's something you need to consider. But I'm not saying, I don't want to get any letters from emails saying from spouses, oh, it's all because of you that my wife ditched me, or she's done this or she's done that or whatever, or my husband or whatever. I don't want any of that coming to me. But I just want you maybe to think about, if you are going to do a reinvention, if you are going to do something you've never ever done before, as I said, there's no reason why you should go from the cradle to the grave, do in the exact same role that you have been doing. So give that some thought today. And if you do make some changes, you will find some pushback, not only from your family and your friends, but everybody is probably going to say, oh, she's having a midlife crisis, or she's having this, or she's having that, because they are trying to box you back into the role that you originally did have. So as Randy said, that is something he's doing at the moment, and his friends do laugh at him because they're saying, oh, Randy, you're going through another midlife crisis. And he said he hopes in the future he goes through maybe another 3, 4 or 5 of those midlife crises, because each of those moments are a reinvention. He is taking on some role that he's never ever done before. He's looking at some kind of new business idea, or maybe he's taking on things that he's never, he's stretching himself, he's putting himself out there, and he's doing things he's never ever done before. So give that some thought today as we head into 2021. Are resolutions going to be big enough to make a change, or should you have a look at doing some reinvention? Now, as I said, yesterday's podcast will probably make this episode will probably make more sense to you if you do listen to yesterday's podcast episode. So if you want to hop back an episode, listen to that. These two kind of piece together well. So as always, if you'd like to reach out to me, now that is if you're a spouse or whatever, or a partner that is coming to slate me, and no, I don't want those kind of comments or those contents. But if you'd like me maybe to cover something in a podcast episode, if you'd like to have a comment or whatever, or let me know what you do think of these podcast episodes, or if there's something you'd like me to cover in an upcoming one, certainly I would like to hear more of those. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I would really appreciate it maybe if you would share it with a few more people maybe you think that might like to make some changes in their new year, or might like to maybe just to kind of think some new ideas. If you'd like to maybe share that with other people in your group, I would really appreciate it. And as always, if you'd like to maybe stretch yourself, do something that you've ever done before, like for example maybe take up fiction writing, vlogging, podcasting or whatever, you can certainly find a lot of that content over on the Writecom site. So if you want to do a search for Writecom, that's WRITECOME.com, you'll find the content all over the web, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, it's all over there, and Google or whatever, you'll find the content all over the web. So as always, thanks for sharing your time with me again today. Take care and have a great day. Bye bye.
Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like more from the Writecom.com podcast, be sure to subscribe now for more tips, tricks, and ideas you can use to make more money from your words. See you in the next episode.